Have you ever met someone who seemed like a completely different person depending on who they were talking to? Maybe they were quiet and thoughtful with one group, then suddenly became animated and outgoing with another? So, you might have encountered an INFJ doing what they do best, shapeshifting. But here's the thing, they're not being fake or two-faced. There's actually a fascinating psychological reason behind this behavior that goes way deeper than you might think. Welcome to today's deep dive into one of the most misunderstood aspects of the INFJ personality type. I'm talking about their incredible ability to adapt, transform, and yes, shapeshift, depending on their environment and the people around them. Now, before you jump to conclusions and think we're talking about some kind of deceptive behavior, let me stop you right there. INFJ shapeshifting isn't about being dishonest or manipulative. It's actually a complex psychological mechanism that stems from their unique cognitive functions and their deep desire to connect with others authentically. Today, we're going to explore exactly why INFJs do this, how it affects their relationships, and what it means for both INFJs themselves and the people in their lives. So stick around because by the end of this video, you'll understand INFJs on a whole new level. 1. The psychology behind INFJ shapeshifting. Now, let's dig into the psychological mechanics of this whole shapeshifting thing. When we talk about INFJ shapeshifting, we're really talking about something called personality mirroring or social chameleon behavior. But for INFJs, it goes much deeper than simple social adaptation. Their introverted intuition is constantly processing information about the people around them. They're picking up on subtle cues, body language, tone of voice, energy levels, emotional states, and their brain is working overtime to understand what makes each person tick. It's like they're running a constant background program that analyzes social dynamics and emotional needs. Then, their extrovert feeling kicks in with this overwhelming desire to create harmony and make genuine connections. They don't want to just get along with people. They want to truly understand them and be understood in return. So they naturally adjust their communication style, their energy level, even their interests to better connect with whoever they're interacting with. But here's the kicker. They're not consciously deciding to do this most of the time. It's happening automatically below the level of conscious awareness. They're not sitting there thinking, okay, this person likes sports, so I need to act more sporty. Instead, they're intuitively sensing what version of themselves would create the best connection, and that's the version that emerges. 2. Different types of INFJ shapeshifting. Not all INFJ shapeshifting looks the same. In fact, there are several different ways this behavior manifests, and understanding these variations can help us appreciate just how complex this phenomenon really is. First, there's emotional shapeshifting. This is when INFJs adjust their emotional expression based on what they sense others need. With a grieving friend, they might become more gentle and subdued. With an excited colleague, they might amp up their own enthusiasm. They're not faking emotions. They're genuinely feeling different aspects of themselves in response to different situations. Then there's intellectual shapeshifting. INFJs are naturally curious and often have broad interests, so they might emphasize different aspects of their knowledge and interests depending on their audience. With art lovers, their creative side shines. With analytical thinkers, their logical side comes forward. Again, these aren't fake personas. They're different facets of their genuine self. There's also behavioral shapeshifting, where INFJs adjust their actions and mannerisms. They might be more formal in professional settings, more casual with close friends, or more nurturing with people who seem to need support. Each adaptation feels natural to them because they're responding to what they genuinely sense the situation requires. Finally, there's communication shapeshifting. INFJs are masters at adjusting their communication style. They might use more technical language with experts, simpler explanations with beginners, or more emotional language with feeling-oriented people. They're not being manipulative, they're trying to communicate in a way that will be most effective and meaningful for their audience. 3. The empathy factor. Let's talk about empathy because this is really at the heart of INFJ shapeshifting. INFJs don't just have empathy, they have what some researchers call hyperempathy. They don't just understand how others feel, they actually feel it themselves, almost like emotional telepathy. This intense empathic ability means that being around different people literally changes how INFJs feel inside. When they're with someone who's anxious, they absorb some of that anxiety. When they're with someone who's excited, they catch some of that excitement. It's not a choice, it's an automatic response. Now, imagine what this means for their behavior. If they're naturally picking up on and internalizing other people's emotional states, it makes perfect sense that their outward behavior would shift to match. They're not putting on an act. They're responding authentically to the emotional environment they're absorbing. This is why INFJs often feel drained after social interactions, especially with multiple different people. They've been unconsciously shapeshifting all day, adapting to different emotional climates and energy levels. It's exhausting work, even when they're not consciously aware they're doing it. But here's what's beautiful about this. Their shapeshifting often makes others feel incredibly seen and understood. People walk away from conversations with INFJs feeling like they've been truly heard, like someone finally gets them. That's the power of empathic shapeshifting. It creates genuine connection. 4. Social adaptation and survival mechanisms. There's another layer to INFJ shapeshifting that we need to address. It's partly a survival mechanism. As sensitive individuals in a world that often rewards more aggressive or assertive personalities, INFJs have learned to adapt as a way of protecting themselves and finding acceptance. Think about it from an evolutionary perspective. INFJs are naturally sensitive, often introverted, and they process the world differently than most people. In many social environments, being too different can lead to rejection or misunderstanding. So they've developed this incredible ability to read social situations and present the version of themselves that's most likely to be accepted and valued. This doesn't mean they're being dishonest. They're being strategic about which parts of their authentic self to emphasize. We all do this to some extent, but INFJs do it with such finesse that it can seem almost supernatural. They might emphasize their logical side in academic settings, their creative side in artistic environments, or their nurturing side in caregiving situations. Each version is genuinely them, but they're highlighting different aspects based on what they sense will be most appreciated and effective. This adaptive ability has probably helped INFJs throughout history. In tribes and communities, being able to connect with different types of people and fulfill different roles would have been incredibly valuable. The person who could counsel the grieving, inspire the discouraged, and strategize with the leaders would have been indispensable. 5. The mirror effect. One of the most fascinating aspects of INFJ shapeshifting is what I call the mirror effect. INFJs often unconsciously reflect back to people the qualities they most need to see in themselves or the energy they most need to experience. Here's how it works. Their introverted intuition picks up on what someone is lacking or struggling with. Maybe they sense that someone needs more confidence, more compassion, or more excitement in their life. Then, without even realizing it, they embody those qualities when interacting with that person. It's like they become a mirror that shows people their potential or gives them a taste of what they're missing. The shy person feels more confident around them. The overly serious person feels permission to be playful. The disconnected person feels understood and accepted. This mirror effect is incredibly healing for many people, which is probably why INFJs often find themselves in counseling, teaching, or helping roles. People are naturally drawn to them because they provide something that's missing in their emotional or psychological landscape. But here's the thing about mirrors. They're constantly changing based on what they're reflecting. This is part of why INFJs can seem like different people in different contexts. They're not being fake. They're being responsive to the emotional and psychological needs of the people around them. 6. Authenticity versus adaptation. Now, this brings up a big question that many INFJs struggle with. If they're constantly adapting and shapeshifting, are they being authentic? This internal conflict can cause a lot of distress for INFJs who value genuineness above almost everything else. The truth is, INFJ shapeshifting isn't about being inauthentic. It's about being selectively authentic. They're choosing which aspects of their true self to emphasize based on the situation and the people involved. Think of it like this. You have many different sides to your personality, and you naturally emphasize different sides in different situations. You're probably more playful with your best friend than you are in a job interview, but both versions are authentically you. INFJs just do this to a more extreme degree because of their unique cognitive wiring. They have access to a wider range of personality expressions, and they're more sensitive to social and emotional cues that tell them which expression would be most appropriate and effective. The key is that underneath all the adapting and shapeshifting, there's a consistent core self. INFJs have strong values, deep convictions, and a clear sense of their own identity. The shapeshifting happens in how they express and present these core aspects, not in changing the fundamental beliefs and values themselves. When INFJs are healthy and self-aware, they can shapeshift while still maintaining their authenticity. They know who they are at their core, and they're consciously choosing how to present different facets of that core self. The problems arise when they lose touch with their center or when they start shapeshifting as a way of avoiding their true self rather than expressing it. 7. The energy cost of constant adaptation. Let's be real about something. All this shapeshifting comes with a price. Constantly adapting to different people and situations is emotionally and mentally exhausting. It's like being an actor who has to play different roles all day, every day, except the roles are all different versions of yourself. INFJs often report feeling drained after social interactions, and this is a big part of why. They're not just making small talk or going through social motions, they're actively reading, processing, adapting, and responding to multiple layers of social and emotional information simultaneously. It's intense cognitive work that happens largely below the level of conscious awareness. Many INFJs describe feeling like they lose themselves in all the adapting. They might come home after a day of social interactions and not even remember who they really are underneath all the different versions they've presented. This can lead to an identity crisis or feelings of emptiness and disconnection from their authentic self. The energy cost is also cumulative. The more shapeshifting an INFJ does, the more depleted they become. This is why many INFJs need significant alone time to recharge and reconnect with their core self. They need space to stop adapting and just be whoever they naturally are without any external pressures or expectations. Some INFJs try to minimize this energy cost by limiting their social interactions or by being more selective about when and how much they adapt. Others work on becoming more conscious of their shapeshifting so they can do it more intentionally rather than automatically. 8. Relationships and shapeshifting. INFJ shapeshifting has a huge impact on their relationships, both positive and challenging. On the positive side, their ability to adapt and connect with people on their level makes them incredibly appealing friends, partners, and colleagues. People feel understood and accepted around them in a way that's rare and valuable. In romantic relationships, INFJs might initially shapeshift to match what they think their partner wants or needs. They might emphasize their intellectual side with a cerebral partner, their emotional side with a feeling-oriented partner, or their adventurous side with someone who loves excitement. This can create incredibly strong initial connections because the partner feels like they've found someone who truly gets them. But here's where things can get complicated. If the INFJ is constantly shapeshifting in the relationship, their partner might never get to know their true, unguarded self. And the INFJ might start to feel like they're loved for who they pretend to be rather than who they really are. This can create a sense of loneliness even within intimate relationships. The healthiest INFJ relationships are ones where they feel safe to be their authentic self without constant adaptation. These are relationships where they can express different sides of themselves naturally, without feeling like they need to perform or meet specific expectations. When INFJs find these relationships, they're incredibly loyal and devoted because they're so rare and precious. In friendships, INFJs might have different friend groups that bring out different aspects of their personality. They might be the thoughtful philosopher with one group, the creative artist with another, and the practical problem solver with a third. This can work well as long as the INFJ doesn't feel compartmentalized or like they can't integrate these different aspects of themselves. 9. Professional implications. In professional settings, INFJ shapeshifting can be both a superpower and a source of stress. On one hand, their ability to adapt to different colleagues, clients, and situations makes them incredibly versatile employees. They can work effectively with analytical types, creative types, emotional types, and practical types because they can meet each person where they are. This adaptability often makes INFJs successful in roles that require interpersonal skills, counseling, teaching, consulting, human resources, marketing, or leadership positions. They can tailor their approach to be most effective with each individual they're working with, which leads to better outcomes and stronger professional relationships. But the professional world can also be where INFJ shapeshifting becomes most problematic. If they're constantly adapting to meet others' expectations without staying true to their own values and preferences, they can end up in careers that drain their energy and don't fulfill them. They might be successful from the outside while feeling empty and disconnected on the inside. Many INFJs struggle with the question of which version of themselves to present in professional settings. Should they emphasize their logical, analytical side to be taken seriously? Their creative, visionary side to stand out? Their empathetic, people-focused side to build relationships? The answer usually depends on the specific workplace culture and the demands of their role. The most successful INFJs professionally tend to be those who find ways to integrate their different aspects rather than compartmentalizing them. They look for roles and organizations where they can be authentically themselves while still adapting their communication and approach as needed. 10. The shadow side of shapeshifting. Like any personality trait, INFJ shapeshifting has a shadow side that's important to acknowledge. When taken to extremes or used unconsciously, shapeshifting can become manipulative, exhausting, and ultimately self-destructive. Some INFJs become so skilled at reading people and giving them what they want that they lose touch with their own wants and needs. They might automatically shapeshift without even considering whether the adaptation serves them or aligns with their values. This can lead to people-pleasing behaviors and resentment. There's also the risk of becoming addicted to the positive responses that skillful shapeshifting can generate. INFJs might start shapeshifting not to create genuine connection, but to get approval, validation, or control. When this happens, the behavior becomes manipulative rather than empathetic. Another shadow aspect is the potential for INFJs to use shapeshifting as a way of avoiding intimacy. If they're constantly adapting to what others want, they never have to risk being rejected for who they truly are. They can maintain surface-level connections while avoiding the vulnerability that comes with being truly known. Some INFJs also struggle with what I call shapeshifting fatigue. They become so tired of constantly adapting that they swing to the opposite extreme and refuse to adapt at all. This can make them seem rigid or uncompromising when they're actually just trying to preserve their sense of self. The key to managing these shadow aspects is developing self-awareness and intentionality around shapeshifting. INFJs need to learn to recognize when they're adapting, why they're adapting, and whether the adaptation serves their authentic self in their relationships. 11. Cultural and environmental factors. It's worth noting that INFJ shapeshifting doesn't happen in a vacuum. It's influenced by cultural and environmental factors. INFJs who grow up in families or cultures that value conformity might develop stronger shapeshifting abilities as a survival mechanism. Those who grow up in more accepting environments might have less need to adapt and therefore less developed shapeshifting skills. Different cultures also have different norms around personality expression. In some cultures, adapting your behavior to fit social expectations is seen as mature and respectful. In others, it might be viewed as inauthentic or people-pleasing. INFJs navigate these cultural expectations while trying to maintain their own sense of authenticity. Environmental stress can also amplify INFJ shapeshifting. When they feel unsafe or uncertain, they might increase their adaptive behaviors as a way of ensuring acceptance and avoiding conflict. Conversely, when they feel secure and supported, they might feel more freedom to be their authentic selves without as much adaptation. Understanding these contextual factors can help INFJs be more compassionate with themselves about their shapeshifting tendencies. It's not a character flaw or a sign of weakness. It's often an intelligent response to their environment and circumstances. 12. Healthy versus unhealthy shapeshifting. Not all shapeshifting is created equal. There's a significant difference between healthy, conscious adaptation and unhealthy, compulsive shapeshifting. Understanding this difference is crucial for INFJs who want to use their adaptive abilities in positive ways. Healthy shapeshifting is conscious, voluntary, and serves both the INFJ and the people they're interacting with. It's based on genuine empathy and a desire to create meaningful connections. The INFJ remains in touch with their core self throughout the adaptation and can easily return to their baseline personality when the situation changes. Healthy shapeshifting also has boundaries. The INFJ won't adapt in ways that violate their core values or compromise their well-being. They're selective about when, how, and how much they adapt based on their own needs and the specific situation. Unhealthy shapeshifting, on the other hand, is compulsive, exhausting, and often disconnected from the INFJ's authentic self. It might be driven by fear of rejection, need for approval, or desire for control rather than genuine empathy and connection. The INFJ might feel like they have no choice but to adapt, and they might adapt even when it hurts them or goes against their values. Unhealthy shapeshifting often involves losing touch with the core self or feeling like the adapted version is more valuable or lovable than the authentic self. This can lead to identity confusion, low self-worth, and chronic feelings of emptiness or disconnection. The goal for INFJs isn't to stop shapeshifting altogether. That would be like asking them to stop being empathetic or intuitive. Instead, the goal is to develop the self-awareness and boundaries needed to shapeshift in healthy, conscious ways that serve everyone involved. 13. Learning to integrate different selves. One of the most important skills for INFJs to develop is learning how to integrate their different adaptive selves into a cohesive whole. Rather than seeing their various expressions as separate personalities, they can learn to see them as different facets of one complex, multifaceted identity. This integration process starts with self-awareness. INFJs need to spend time reflecting on the different ways they show up in different situations and relationships. They can ask themselves questions like, what parts of myself do I emphasize with different people? What triggers my shapeshifting? How do I feel before, during, and after adapting? What remains constant across all my different expressions? Once they have this awareness, INFJs can start to identify the common threads that run through all their different expressions. These are usually their core values, beliefs, and fundamental aspects of their personality. Recognizing these constants can help them feel more grounded and authentic even when they're adapting their outward expression. Integration also involves giving themselves permission to be multifaceted. Many INFJs struggle with the idea that they can be both logical and emotional, both introverted and socially skilled, both independent and relationship-focused. But humans are complex beings, and having multiple, sometimes contradictory aspects is normal and healthy. The goal isn't to be the same person in every situation. That would be rigid and unresponsive. Instead, the goal is to consciously choose which aspects of themselves to emphasize based on what would be most authentic and effective in each situation. 14. Tips for INFJs to manage shapeshifting. For INFJs reading this who recognize themselves in these descriptions, here are some practical strategies for managing your shapeshifting tendencies in healthy ways. First, develop regular check-ins with yourself. Set aside time daily or weekly to reconnect with your core self. Ask yourself, who am I when I'm alone? What do I really think and feel about things? What aspects of myself have I been neglecting or suppressing? This practice can help you maintain connection to your authentic self even when you're adapting frequently. Second, practice setting boundaries around your adaptive behavior. You don't have to be everything to everyone. It's okay to say no to social situations that would require exhausting amounts of shapeshifting. It's okay to let people see aspects of your authentic self that might not be perfectly tailored to their preferences. Third, find relationships and environments where you can be more authentically yourself with less adaptation. These might be close friendships, romantic partnerships, creative communities, or spiritual groups where you feel accepted for who you truly are. Nurture these relationships because they're essential for your well-being. Fourth, develop language to explain your adaptability to others when appropriate. Many people don't understand why INFJs seem different in different contexts, and this can lead to misunderstandings or accusations of being fake. Having words to explain that you're naturally responsive to different social and emotional environments can help others understand and appreciate your adaptability. Finally, consider working with a therapist or coach who understands INFJs and can help you navigate the complexities of your personality type. Having professional support can be incredibly valuable for developing the self-awareness and skills needed to use your shape-shifting abilities in positive ways. Conclusion. So there you have it, the fascinating, complex world of INFJ shapeshifting. We've explored how this behavior stems from their unique cognitive functions, serves important psychological and social purposes, and can be both a gift and a challenge depending on how it's managed. The key takeaway is that INFJ shapeshifting isn't about being fake or manipulative. It's about being incredibly responsive to the emotional and social environment around them. It's a natural expression of their deep empathy, their desire for authentic connection, and their intuitive understanding of what others need. Like any personality trait, shapeshifting can be used in healthy or unhealthy ways. When INFJs are self-aware and intentional about their adaptive behaviors, shapeshifting becomes a powerful tool for creating meaningful connections and making a positive impact in the world. When it's unconscious or compulsive, it can lead to exhaustion, identity confusion, and shallow relationships. The goal isn't for INFJs to stop shapeshifting. That would be like asking them to stop being empathetic or intuitive. Instead, the goal is to develop the awareness and skills needed to use this natural ability in ways that serve both themselves and others. For those who love INFJs in their lives, understanding shapeshifting can help you appreciate the incredible gift they bring to relationships. That ability to meet you where you are, to understand what you need, and to connect with you on your level, that's not something to take for granted. It's a rare and precious quality that makes the world a more understanding and compassionate place. And remember, whether you're an INFJ yourself or someone who cares about INFJs, the most important thing is to create space for authenticity alongside adaptability. The magic happens when INFJs can be both responsive to others and true to themselves. When they can shapeshift consciously and lovingly while staying connected to their own beautiful, complex, multifaceted identity. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into the mysterious world of INFJ shapeshifting. If this resonated with you, let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more insights into the fascinating world of personality psychology.